Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Becky Bellini, one of the counselors here at Cal. We've got quite a few people kind of still coming in, so we might wait a minute or two before we get started. Tonight's presentation will focus on our rising seniors, so our class of 2027. We'll cover course registration for next year, college and career researching, and all of those kinds of things, post-grad plan options. Don't want to get too started before everybody's in. Just give it another minute or so. And it'll be myself and Jen Beavers, another counselor, and then Callie Falcone's in the background helping us with our Q&A and any other tech issues that might arise. Hopefully none. Okay, Jen, what do you think? Should we get started?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, once again, thanks for joining us for our presentation for the class of 2027, preparing for senior year and beyond. Like I mentioned, we're going to cover things to think about for senior year when it comes to course registration and, all of the things that come along that you're thinking about as you're wrapping up your high school experience. Class choices, requirements for graduation and for college admissions, what your transcript looks like nowadays, and your status towards graduation. Our new online registration process, which students on the call, which I see quite a few of you, hello, have already been taught our new course registration process. So parents will talk to you a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about SchooLinks and college and career planning as well. So we always like to do just a little bit of an introduction slide because, our counseling assignments change a little bit year to year. So there we are. We are assigned by last name. So you find your last initials up there and you find who your counselor is this year and hopefully next year as well. We have additional counseling support beyond our alphabet counselors with Miss Lapata, our student support counselor, Miss Hobbs, who works in the Wellness Center, and Miss Nichols, our wonderful college and career coordinator. So that's our team. I'm going to just kind of dive right into registering for classes. So as I mentioned, we went into classrooms last week to introduce all of the course registration information to students already. So hopefully you've all seen, it's like a gold yellow sheet of paper with the senior year course registration info that has this kind of information, the required courses, the course options for 12th grade. Every year students take an English class, so they'll have one of those 5 options to choose from for next year. Every senior needs to take Gov and Econ, so American Government and Economics, whether it be the regular 1 semester course for Gov and Econ or the AP version of either course, which are both year long. So if they're taking the AP versions, the AP government class will take a full spot in your schedule, as will the AP Econ class, versus the 1 semester courses of each, it's just 1 spot in your schedule. And you can mix and match however you like, AP of one and regular of the other, but you do have to do both. So both are required for graduation. For math, obviously you're going to keep just in the path that you've been on math-wise. We do recommend a 4th year of math for every student. It's not required, but it is, we think, good practice for students to continue in their math learning as you are going to need more math, especially if you're going on to college. You'll be taking more math there, so it's best to just keep doing that. A science course, again, depending on what you've already taken, 3 to 4 years are required for some colleges, 2 years required for high school graduation. So again, it kind of depends on your post-grad plans, what you think you might want to study in college, how much science you'll have on your high school transcript. a world language if you are still working through that requirement, and then, of course, filling in the rest of the blanks with one of our many electives. On the back of that yellow sheet that we sent home is all of the course choices available to seniors, so it's a full sheet of all of the classes they have to choose from. And students, seniors can have 5, 6, or 7 classes. For the most part, seniors will have 5 or 6. It's kind of a rare opportunity for a senior to have 7 classes. We just don't have a lot of seniors who want 7 classes, so there's not a ton of options for seniors in that late afternoon B period. But as long as students have passed all their classes, every year, then they have earned enough credits to just have those 5 classes senior year. Just want to direct your attention over to the course catalog. This is now all housed in SchooLinks. So we're going to be talking about SchooLinks a lot tonight. It's where they're doing their course planning, their course requests. The course catalog is in SchooLinks now, and it's also the platform that we use for college research. So this is where you'll find the course catalog. It's also linked in from the district website where it always has been. You can search classes by grade, subject area. You want to put Cal High in there when you get in there, so you are make sure you're looking at our courses, and you can see the course descriptions for every class. We are going to have, I'm sure I'll probably mention this later on in the presentation too, but while we're talking about courses, we have the course offerings fair tomorrow at school. We have a long lunch tomorrow, an hour-long lunch. And we have many of our teachers will be set up in the gym, in the event center with tables, showing off the projects and different things that students do in their classes. So students, we really encourage you to come out at lunch tomorrow and kind of see what's out there so you can see what you might be doing in the different electives as you're deciding what classes to sign up for. Always like to mention a little something about non-district courses. This is when students choose to take classes outside of Cal High. We always like to remind you that this is in no way required. All of the classes that a student needs to graduate from high school and to be admitted to any college or university are offered on our campus. So we just like to say that first. It can be a good option for a student who wants to take a class we don't offer, or to move more quickly along in a certain content area. So it's certainly an option, but it is in no way required. And feedback that we are hearing even more and more now from colleges that they would really prefer students to take classes at their high school whenever possible. So if we offer a class and a student has room in their schedule for that class, they should try to take it here with us. It is imperative that students let us know when they're choosing to do this so we can make sure that their schedule is planned accordingly for next year. We always like to direct students to the district website that has the non-district course application, and it just explains all of the policies and deadlines and all of that type of thing for any out of district course. For seniors in particular, if a senior is planning on taking a non-district course for a graduation requirement like government or econ or English, that course has to be done by the end of December, the end of first semester. We don't want to leave it to chance that students finish their high school graduation requirements. So if a student isn't done with a non-district course by the end of December, we're going to make room for that class in their schedule at Cal High in the spring. We need to make sure that students have finished all of their graduation requirements by June. And then, like I said, there's a link on the district website that covers all of this and more. There's a document with approved institutions and all that kind of thing if students really are wanting to take a class outside of Cal High. Do feel like for many students, by the time they reach senior year, any outside classes they're wanting to take, they've usually done that already. So you may already be well versed in this process. Okay, so our online registration program this year is going to be done through SchooLinks. And as I mentioned, we went through all of the how-to with students at school. We have a video posted on our website showing students exactly how to do it. It's a 4-year planning tool, so it's cool in that way. I mean, obviously for you guys, it's a 1-year planning tool because you've already been with us for 3 years, so you're planning your senior year. But it's a really nice kind of one-stop shop to see all the classes you've taken, and then for underclassmen, all the classes they plan to take for the next 2, 3 years of high school. So for seniors, you only have one column left, right? You have senior year left, and you're putting the courses you're choosing into the course planner. And what's really nice, and it's something that Infinite Campus never did when it comes to course registration, is it tells you what areas you still need to meet your requirements in, right? It knows what you've taken and it knows what you need. So if you're missing a requirement, it's going to show up in red, right? It's going to tell you, hey, you still need to add econ. So that's really nice. It shows you exactly what you need to do. It's open and available now. Many of our students have already done it, are working on it, have already submitted since we showed it to you last week. And you have until next Friday, the 27th, to get into SchooLinks and actually complete your course plan. We're not going to go through it with the parents tonight, but the information is available on our website, which I'm not sure if we've sent that out yet to you recently, but once all of our videos are posted of all of these nights, we'll send it out one more time that has all of the course registration information linked so you can all see it. Okay, so moving on to credits and grades, we like to just remind, if you've been to these nights in the last few years, you've heard us say these things before, but we like to remind you now as seniors and parents and guardians of seniors, kind of what's required for graduation versus what's required to go straight to a 4-year university after high school. And that direct to a 4-year university, that means, filling out those college applications next school year and then going straight to the university, not going to community college first. If you're going to community college first, then your requirements are just the high school diploma requirements at first. And we'll talk about that too in a little bit. So for high school graduation versus A through G, you'll see that all the subject areas are there listed on the left. In the middle column are the requirements required for high school graduation. And then on the far right column are the requirements for straight to 4-year university. So you can see the difference. There are some similarities, right? English, it's 4 years. It's 4 years for both. For social science, it's actually more requirements for high school graduation than it is for college. For math, you'll notice for high school graduation, it's just 2 years, surprisingly, right? It's that 10 years of algebra and then 10 years of one more general math class. But for college, they want to see you at least through Algebra 2, and a 4th year of math really is recommended, like I mentioned before. For science, just 2 years required for high school graduation, 2 years also required for college, but that 3rd year and sometimes 4th year recommended depending on what you plan to study. World language is really kind of where things start to change. You actually don't need any years of world language for high school graduation, but if you want to go straight to a 4-year, you should do 2 to 3 years recommended of the same language. And then that 1 year of fine art is required for college. But for high school graduation, you can do a fine art or applied art, also known as vocational art. So our classes like culinary, computer science, child development, things like that. But for college, they want to see that fine art or performing art. So theater, choir, dance, band, photo, digital photo, ceramics, etc. Those types of classes for straight to college. Elective credits, students will meet their elective credit requirements. They will, based on all the classes they've taken. PE, 20 credits are required for graduation, not required for college. They don't consider those PE classes. And then health, you need those 5 credits, which you've already done. Again, not required for college. In terms of grades requirements, for graduation, we're looking for credits, right? Every class you take every semester is worth 5 credits per class per semester. By the end of high school, you need 220 credits. And you earn those credits if you get a D minus or better. But for college, they want to see at least a C minus or better in all of the classes mentioned in that chart. So that's the difference there. Other like out of state, and we almost always talk about UC and CSU requirements, right? Because those are our state schools. Other 4-year private and out of state, that will vary, but for the most part, these requirements kind of are the gold standard that you'll see at most universities. This is what an 11th grade transcript looks like. So students and families, you can access your transcript right in Infinite Campus. You have access to an unofficial transcript at your leisure. It's always a good idea to check your transcript after every semester grade is posted, just to make sure that what you thought you earned is what has actually been recorded on your transcript. And so that if there is any discrepancies, you can talk to your teacher about it quickly and get it fixed if needed. So you'll see there that most students at this point will have earned 140 to 150 credits. And then between this current semester and all of next year, you have plenty of time and opportunity to get up to that 220 that's required. And like I said, you can find this in the Documents tab in Infinite Campus, both students and their guardians. Um, Summer school. We still haven't really heard from the district what the summer school plan is, but we suspect it will be the same as last year. So those of you who were following the budget cuts and everything last year will remember that our in-person summer school is something that we've lost over the last few years due to budget cuts. So last year we were able to offer non-college prep credit recovery online for summer school only. So if a student has earned an F in a class and is behind for credits in graduation, we will likely have, I'm almost certain we'll have a summer school opportunity for that. But if a student earned a D or an F and wants to go straight to a four-year college after high school, they would probably need to seek out non-district course options for summer school. But really, your counselor will talk to you about this in the next few weeks. And so we'll talk about all the options. Sometimes you can retake the course at Cal High. It just kind of depends on what it is and what the classes are that you want to take in 12th grade. So we'll have an option for you. You'll work with your counselor individually if that's something that you need to take care of. Okay, so now we're going to college and career planning with SchooLinks. Let's see here. So SchooLinks is a platform that we introduced to students last spring. It's new. Those of you that have had seniors graduate in the past, we used to use a program called Naviance. It has a similar purpose in terms of college research and managing college applications. It's how we send all your letters of recommendation, all of your transcripts in for college applications. And then, like I said before, we're also using the course planner tool this year for course registration. But SchooLinks has tons of tools available to you for personal discovery. So kind of, those personality assessments, like the type of Myers-Briggs things that we used to do when we were in school to kind of see what is it that you might be well suited for in terms of a career and post high school and college planning based on your preferences and your personality. There's resume building tool. We put scholarships in there that we learn about so you can apply for those. Again, like I said, you're researching colleges, tracking your college applications, requesting letters of recommendation and transcripts, and all those last two to three are things that you'll do as seniors the fall of your senior year. We will do a big presentation in the fall with all the seniors who need to know this stuff, and we will walk you through this whole process. We also have many college visits come to Cal High every year, and that's how you sign up to come and chat with those college representatives that come through Cal High on SchooLinks. This is just pointing out what it looks like, right? There's colleges, there's careers, there's finances, different things that you can research in the SchooLinks platform. Parents, guardians, I really recommend you just have your student open their computer at some point and show you what it's like in there. We've been going into classrooms throughout the year and last year to teach students how to use the platform. So they've been in a few times with us. So, and we can track how many times they're going on outside of when we're with them. And we're noticing that students are really using it a lot, which is, really reassuring to us that it is working and students are connecting with it. So I really just encourage you to ask your students to show you and you can see what's in there. So the college search tool, this is one of the main things that we're doing with students in here. You can filter by campus size, location of campus, acceptance rates, other admissions factors, diversity factors, what types of programs and majors they offer. You can put all that kind of information in there. And, the main message that we're sending when we're talking with students about this is you want to find schools that maybe you hadn't heard of yet that are actually a perfect fit for you. Because the idea that it is so hard to get into college really is one, a myth, but two, it comes from the fact that so many of our students apply to all the same schools. And so if our entire student body is applying to some, say 15 to 20 same schools, then yes, it's going to be hard to gain admission to some of those schools. But there are just thousands of schools to choose from. So we really want students kind of throwing, a wider net out there to maybe find schools that they hadn't considered, but have everything that they really are looking for. And SchooLinks is a great place to do that. I think the coolest tool in SchooLinks is this scattergram. Naviance had this too, to be fair. So it actually shows that chart that you see, all those little green dots are students from Cal High over the last 10 or so years that have applied and gotten into that school. When you're actually in there, you can put your cursor over the dots and it will come up with a GPA and maybe an SAT or ACT test score if we have that data. So you can kind of see like how exactly our Cal High graduates and our other school district graduates do when applying to this school. That is not something that you can get on Google. So that's why it's just a great tool to use so you can have a good idea of kind of where you're at in terms of your GPA and your numbers when it comes to applying to different types of schools. It just helps you figure out kind of where you stand. So you really just don't have to guess. Um, we like to remind students that there is a college or a postgraduate plan for everybody. Um, you want to find the place where you are going to be happy. That's the place you're going to be successful. And so when we're doing these types of lessons with students, that's really what we focus on. We don't want to focus on the name. We don't want to focus on where our friends are applying or where we think everybody else is applying. We really want to focus on what is the right fit for you. And many of these schools are just as affordable, if not more, than many of the colleges that you've heard of. Um, there's tons of opportunity. So we really want to help students find those opportunities rather than thinking that that there's just a few to choose from. And that's why we focus on fit, right? You're going to hear us say that a lot. We want to find the place where students are successful and people are successful where they're happy and where they feel included, where they feel part of a community. That's what we know. That's what the data shows us. So we want to find a school or a program that fits our academic needs, obviously, first and foremost, right? Do they have the majors available that you're thinking about? And if you're not sure about your major yet, like what's the process for changing a major at a school? Can you go in undecided? These are things to think about when deciding where to apply. Um, what is the student academic profile? What is the preferred learning style and environment? Do you think that you might like a small environment where you have small class sizes, even smaller than your classes at Cal High? Or are you kind of excited about being in a large lecture hall, with a kind of crowd of people? It really just depends on your own preference. The social um, environment, right? The living arrangements. Are you going to live on campus? Do you want to go to a small college town or do you want to go live in a big city, right? You've been growing up in the suburbs. Maybe you want to move to a big city and see what that's about. What kind of extracurriculars are available? What kind of sports are available? Do they have Greek life? All of those types of things, right? Those are the things you want to be thinking about. And then obviously financial fit. Um, of course, you need to consider the cost of a school. I don't like to say that you shouldn't apply to a school that you think might be too expensive because, they do offer scholarships and they might offer a financial aid package. And unfortunately, you won't always know what that is until you apply. But I do advise not to get our heart set on schools that we think might be too expensive. Um, Things to think about too are like travel expenses, right? Cost of living in the city or town where the school is. All of those things obviously play a factor in how a student will be successful and happy in that place. And obviously that's going to be different for everybody. So this is really kind of a personal journey that you got to go on to figure out where the right school is for you. Um, Oh, this looks like it got a little bit cut off. Um, so we have a few college myths that we run into all the time with students. Number one, it takes all A's to get into a good college. We really hate to hear people say, ask us, is it a good college? It really depends on what you mean by that, right? Is it a good college for you individually? Well, that depends on what you're looking for. But any accredited university, right, is a good college. So no, it doesn't take straight A's to get into college. Absolutely not. Um, any school that isn't necessarily a good fit for you just because it's well known and has low acceptance rates. I've seen students, when we're doing our college research presentations, I've seen them um, immediately, try to write off a school because it has a 50% acceptance rate. That doesn't make a school bad at all. And in fact, if that school had everything that you're looking for, and you also have a really great chance of getting in, I mean, isn't that great, right? So that could be a good school for you. So we want to avoid making judgments like that about schools. Um, you absolutely do not have to take outside classes or summer advancement. No one has to do that. You don't need to take as many APs as possible. Um, I think that that's like the easy advice to give, right? And people will say like, what can I do to be a more competitive applicant? Um, the answer isn't just load on APs, right? A lot of people are doing that. That doesn't make you stand out. Um, Colleges want to know who you are. They want to know what you're interested in. And just spending all of your time in AP classes doesn't really tell them anything about that. So we want you spending your time really focusing on things that you enjoy, learning more about yourself, which is a really important part of being a teenager, right? And it's kind of hard to do that if you're always studying for AP tests. Um, just because the college is harder to get into doesn't mean it is better for you. Um, the next one on there is families need to use private college counselors. You do not. Many of our students do not pay for any outside help with college applications. Um, it can be a good option if you are looking for somebody else to kind of help with, the the deadlines and keeping track of everything. And I know sometimes it can be hard between parents and students dealing with these things. It can be stressful, and it can be nice to have help with that stuff. But we really are just protective of our families and students, and we see a lot of what we kind of consider shady behavior out there of people charging a lot of money to help you with a UC and CSU application. Um, Families do not need to pay for help with that. These are pretty straightforward applications, and we do workshops at school. We help with those things. So before you go paying someone a lot of money for this, we really just want you to consider what it is you feel you need help with and make sure that person's going to provide that type of help. Again, we're so protective of you all, and we want to make sure you're getting good value if you are going to invest in that. And then finally, the idea that a college is selective means that it is um, and prestigious means it's a good fit for you, again, is just false. You need to find the school that has what you need, not worrying what other people think about it or where it ends up on that, world review list or whatever it's called. So really focusing on you is what we want, what we're going to be doing with you when we're talking about all of this. Okay, so creating a balanced list. You will be hard pressed to find any resource out there that says you should apply to more than 10 or 12 schools. And yet, we have students sometimes applying to like 30 schools. So we really want to not see you doing that. It's a huge commitment of time and effort for students to be filling out that many applications. It's also a huge financial burden because each application comes with like a 70, 80, $90 price tag. So you want to be a little bit more choosy, right? Because you're only going to one of these schools out the gate. So we've got likely schools. These are schools you have a greater than 80% chance of gaining admission to. Target schools, somewhere in the range of 30 to 80. A reach school, less than 30% chance. And then that wild card school that's like, it's basically like a lottery ticket, right? You could be the most deserving student and still not get in. And I've listed some of those schools there. I really like to point out to everybody that all those schools I mentioned happen to be in our state, right? So it starts to feel like college is out of reach. It isn't. We just happen to have some of the hardest to get into universities in the world right here in our home state. Um, so I think our perspective on that is a little bit off sometimes. So you want to have 2 to 3 schools per category, not including wildcard. And of course, you can throw your hat in that ring as well, and we support you in doing that. But the trick here really is no matter likely target or reach, all of those schools should be schools you are super excited to attend. Because if you can find a school you are likely to gain attendance admission to, and you are really excited about going there and it has everything that you're looking for, then you have just made for yourself a really low stress senior year, which is what we would love for all of you. Okay. I think in the counseling office, we've all read this book. It's called Never Enough. And it's about this kind of achievement culture that can sometimes just be really draining on our kids and on their families, honestly. We kind of listed out what the chapters are about, kind of like what it's like for kids nowadays living in a really high pressure kind of world where it feels like every grade and every test has, lasting consequences on their future when we know that's not true. And just talking about how parental anxiety when talking about post-grad planning is real, and we all want what's best for our kids, all of us do. And it can be really hard to keep the noise of all of this out. And so this book really, I think, spoke to all of us, and it's just really highly recommended reading or listening, if it interests you at all. Again, we highly recommend. More info on this college research. I realize I need to update this. This link here is from our presentation last year, but we were with your students recently going over all of this, and I will link the updated presentation before I post these slides on our website so you could see what we went over with them as well. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Beavers.
Okay. So there's lots of different things, as you guys know, lots of different paths that students can take post high school. And so we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about a few of those pathways. But just, keeping in mind, there's lots of different roads kids can take right after high school. So we'll start with the four-year colleges and universities. We have on our Cal High counseling website a senior guide that is really kind of like the Bible for our seniors as they get into their senior year. It has a lot of really great user-friendly information to help you navigate college applications. Just the information that they're going to need to put on their application. So it's we have it linked here, and again, it's just a really great guide that has lots of resources for you and your students to consult as you get into senior year stuff. When we're looking at a timeline, so let's kind of start over there on the right, the top right. Thinking about junior year, we just want kids to, focus on their classes so that they end their junior year strong. Again, we've already talked to kids about starting to research colleges and creating those preliminary lists. Maybe they've started working on their resumes. If a university that they are applying to requires the SAT or ACT, that they're registering for that. And then if a university that they plan to apply to is requiring a teacher letter of recommendation, that perhaps they can start asking their teachers now about that for the fall. This summer, we're going to be looking over there on the left. So you're going to remediate any failing grades for the A through G requirements that you might need to do. If you're able to go in person, do some college visits, but the universities have really upped their game with like virtual college visits. So that is a great tool as well if you can't get to a college, but you want to really get a good feel for it. Register, take the SAT if needed. Consider getting a job or volunteering. Remember, the universities are looking for a well-rounded applicant. So while academics are certainly important, that is just one piece of their application that's being evaluated. So make sure that you are showing all of who you are, not just the student part of your identity, but all the interests and different activities that you've been involved with. Really start brainstorming your college essays and looking into the topics that you're going to be required to write on. That's really high stakes writing, right? Because this writing, these essays mean a lot to the kids, and it's for consideration for admission. So that's not something you want to sit down and do the night before. So really just starting the brainstorming part of that. And then I'm going to be repeating this over and over, but the summer is a time for our students to get their sleep, to relax, to read, and to have fun. And I can't, I know I speak on behalf of our entire department. I cannot stress that enough. All of those things, and I will say it again throughout the presentation. And then for senior year, for the fall of senior year, we will definitely, the seniors are the first that we present to in the fall. And so we will definitely be meeting with them and going through, all the reminders and letting them know kind of what we're going to be offering as we go through college application season. So in terms of the SAT and ACT, as many of you know, those have the universities that require these. That's changed since COVID. So just know that each university will post their policy regarding either of these tests on their website. But several terms you may come across is test required, test optional, and test blind. So if a university requires the test, you have to submit your scores. If a university's test optional, it's the student's choice. So if they submit it, the college will consider the scores. If it's not submitted, they'll still review the application without the test scores. All right, so it's optional. And then test blind is the scores aren't considered at all, even if the student sends them. So they play no role in the admissions decision. Our UCs and our CSUs are all test blind. And you can actually click on the link that says Fair Test, and that is a website that will list the current testing policies for many universities. So you can actually consult that if you're curious about a particular university. So if your student is planning to play Division I or Division II sports at the college level, you'll definitely at the end of your junior year want to apply for NCAA status through their eligibility center. Definitely let your counselor know during our one-on-one meetings if this is the path that you are hoping to take, because the requirements for NCAA they're similar, but there is a slight variance from the A through G, and we've linked them here, but your counselor will go over that with you, but definitely this is something you want to let your counselor know at the one-on-one. All right, so let's get into post-high school planning that looks a little bit different than a four-year university. Community college is actually becoming a more truly a more popular option for many students for a whole variety of reasons. One is the fact that they're free. So there's opportunities for free tuition with the community college. And if your student lives at home, then you're really saving money there as well in terms of rent, utilities, and all that good stuff. Um, the community colleges, it's a time for exploration. So you kind of are getting out there and seeing what you might be interested in. And they typically have smaller class sizes. They offer different kinds of programs and certificates. You can get your associate's degree. And if the plan is for you to transfer to a four-year university, you can get in your general education, within a couple years, 2 to 3 years at the community college, transfer, and then go straight into your major, your upper division courses. And they also have 6 out of the 9 UCs have they've partnered with the community colleges with the transfer admission guarantee, the TAG program. And so as long as a student is meeting certain coursework requirements and a GPA, they are guaranteed admission into one of those universities. All right, and so we have linked here two really, really good videos for those students who might be considering a trade, which, as many of you know, that we have a growing shortage of skilled labor, and so that is becoming obviously a lot more popular too with students to look into, and as well as it's the trades are something that you can get your certificate in, and then within 2 to 3 years you're out working and making quite a bit of money because we do have such a shortage. So these two, I encourage you, if your student is interested in the trades, to check out these two videos. And then for those students that might be interested in exploring the military, the academies, ROTC, Miss Nichols, and you'll hear her name mentioned several times throughout our presentation, but Miss Nichols, who coordinates our College and Career Center, she has a really lovely partnership with our military folks. And so they come in and meet with her and talk with her pretty regularly. And so there's oftentimes information sessions that kids can attend. And then if you want to, or your student wants to set up an appointment with the recruiter through Miss Nichols, that is an option as well. So that's definitely something that she's, involved with and can help guide your student through. And then a few final thoughts here. So something I think that we all need to keep in mind is that transitioning from, their K-12 experience out into whatever their next chapter looks like, that can feel stressful for kids. And so I just, really want to encourage parents and guardians that to just really pay attention to your students and what their needs might be as we go into and through senior year. It can be very stressful for a whole number of reasons. They've been doing kindergarten through 12th grade, right, for the last 12 years, and now they're moving on to something new. So it is a big change. I think it's important to, remember that your child's privacy. And so things like their test scores, their GPAs, their college lists, like if they want to share that information with others, that is their prerogative. But I think is the adults in their lives, I think we need to let them make that decision. You can really play a big part in encouraging your student to really focus on the school that is the right fit for them. And so for them to hear you say that, I think it's just very validating to hear that from a parent or guardian. Again, like Miss Bellini said, keep that college application list reasonable. We do see kids applying to 30 plus colleges, and it takes a toll. And there's just no way you can give and put your best foot forward with 30 college applications. There's not enough time in the day when they also have their full-time Cal High course load, along with anything else they're doing outside of school. Um, a calendar obviously is your student's best friend because there are lots of different due dates. And really, encourage that fun and that rest. Kids need to hear from the adults in their life that it is okay to take 20 or 30 minutes at the end of each school day and just relax. All right. And I think it's a good reminder to us, for us adults as well. I wanted to put this slide in here because this organization called Challenge Success, they partner with Stanford Research, and the research really shows, and I don't think this comes as a surprise to any of us. However, I think it's something we all need to remind ourselves about. Certainly, as I was reading through the research, it was a really good reminder for me, but especially for our students. They came up with this PDF, playtime, downtime, and family time, and that how incredibly important it is, even though they're teenagers, shoot, even with us adults, like we need to make sure that there's enough time in their day for social connections, um, in person, particularly, right? For them to pursue hobbies and interests just for fun. It's important to spend time outdoors, whether they're taking a walk or playing basketball with friends or just sitting outside in the backyard to get fresh air. They also need downtime. So that 8 to 10 hours per night is so important. And the consequences of sleep deprivation are real. And I know, as adults, we have a much longer lived experience than our students, but we know that when we're going on not a whole lot of sleep, it's the learning that's affected, it's health that's affected, safety. A lot of our kids are driving, right? That's not safe when they're sleep deprived. And even emotional regulation, because we all know that you can get really cranky, right, without the adequate amount of sleep. And again, just to take breaks where they are listening to music, they're reading, just to help reset for the next thing they have to go on to in their day after school. Family time is so important, and what the research shows is that you should strive to gather the family 20 to 25 minutes at least 5 times a week. So whether that's family meals, family outings, a game night, a movie night, maybe you as a family are participating in doing family service projects, traditions, rituals, activities, whatever it is, it's less about the thing that you're doing and more about the time that you're spending together. So on that note, we have some recommendations for those of you that enjoy reading The Truth About College Admissions. It's a family guide, so it's really meant for it's information that is great for both the guardians, parents, and the students. And everybody, I mean, who doesn't like a good podcast? So we've linked 3 down here that we have found to be really helpful for families. So Inside College Admissions, I was kind of looking through their episode list, and some that stood out to me were podcast episodes on how to find your college match, how to have a productive and fun summer, campus visits, what to look for on your tour. The college essay guy, he has quite a presence on social media, but he has a podcast as well. He, I think, recently did an 8-part series called What Colleges Want, which I might assume is really interesting because he interviews a whole variety of people, but he also gives tips about navigating the personal statement essay, college applications, etc. And then the last one there is a podcast called Dear Therapists, and the one episode that really stood out for our department is called Libby's Self-Induced Stress. I cannot recommend more that, and it would be great if you listened to it together. But Libby is brave enough she's a junior in high school, and she shares a very similar profile as many of our students. And she was brave enough to allow the therapist to record this session that she was in with them. And it's so enlightening, and it just really speaks to a teenager processing how much they've taken on, how hard they've worked in their, short 16, 17 years that they've been on this planet, and wondering, what am I missing? What else is out there? Because it feels like I'm just in this constant grind. It's so enlightening. And so again, and it's not long, I think it's 40 minutes. I can't encourage you more to give that a listen. And then we'll wrap up here, at least with our information, is just some helpful resources. So again, we've talked about Miss Nichols, who is such a gift to Cal High, and that she offers so many services. She's such a wealth of information. We've listed, all the different things that Miss Nichols can help with. She's a real point of contact within the community. So she's got, she just has a lot to offer students. We also, of course, have the Wellness Center with Miss Hobbs. And, that is sometimes kids need to just take that quick 15-minute break. And I'm so glad that we can offer them a quiet and calm space to do that. And then we do have free tutoring during our student support. So if students are needing help with any particular class, they can see their teacher for help to get linked up with a peer tutor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beavers. And so we've had the Q&A open, and I've noticed that for the most part, Ms. Falcone has kind of answered those questions. But Kelly, is there anything that's come up that you feel like we should address with the whole group?
Yeah, I think the questions were kind of just little one-off things. I think you both did a wonderful job giving an informative presentation, so I'm not seeing too many outstanding questions.
Awesome. So I do just want to reiterate that those course plans for next year is kind of the most pressing thing at the time, right? They're due on Friday, the 27th. So tomorrow, students, we really recommend you get out there to the course selection fair in the event center, learn about the electives that you haven't had a chance to try yet, kind of see what's out there, and get into that course planner on SchooLinks and submit your course plans by the 27th. We're going to meet with you one-on-one. I don't know if I gave the dates for this. Do I know the dates for this? The week of March 23rd? Is that right? Mid-March, seniors, soon to be seniors, we will be meeting with you. We'll be pulling you out of your history class this year. So you remember what that's like. We pull you into the workroom on the second floor in the main building, and you sit down with your counselor. We call it the junior grad check. We've got a check sheet we go through with you and make sure you have all of the requirements that you need. We talk about your post-grad plans, and you just have an opportunity to check in with your counselor about your classes, your college ideas, your post-grad plans, just whatever it is, right? So you're going to get one-on-one time with us in the next few weeks. So, if as you have questions when you're doing all this stuff, just write them down, make a note on your phone, so you can come prepared to make the best of that time.
Oh,
Um,
we did get
sorry,
a
go ahead.
question. We
Okay.
did get basically two of the same question, honestly. So people are asking about NDCs for grad requirements and putting it in the course planner. And really the answer there is you're going to put in your grad requirements into the course planner. And then that intent form that I think Becky was talking about earlier in the presentation, you need to fill that out. And that's when we'll make any necessary adjustments. But we need to show that you're on track for graduation when we're picking your classes.
Yeah. Yep. So the answer is yes, you may take those graduation requirements over the summer, but for now, you need to still put them in your course planner and make sure you follow all of those requirements for non-district courses on the district page, the intent form, the application for credit, sending your transcript into Ms. Batu. It's all there on the district website, and Ms. Batu actually has a page on the Cal High website that covers all of that, has all the links, etc. Again, we don't want to leave anything to chance. We want to make sure you cross that stage on time at the beginning of June next year.
Would you want to talk a little bit about college visits? I think we touched on the fact that Miss Nichols does them, but just what they are and how students would sign up for them.
Yeah, so actually, Kelly, in SchooLinks, what do they click on to get to the college visits in there?
Yeah, so it'll be just on the homepage there. There's a tab that says events, and it would be all there waiting for them.
Perfect. So we're really trying to kind of house everything in one platform, right? So they're doing their course registration, they're doing their college research, they're signing up for college visits, all in SchooLinks. So it'll be right there on their homepage where they can sign up in there. I see a question about recommendation letters too. So it depends on the school, like who writes the recommendation letters. Some schools don't require any recommendation letters, and like UCs and CSUs, for example, don't accept any letters of recommendation. Um, but for private and out-of-state schools, sometimes they want letters from teachers and sometimes they want a letter from a counselor too. So it really just depends on the school. Um, it won't be their senior year teachers most likely because they'll have only met them for a couple of months. It'll likely be someone they had in 11th or 10th grade. Okay, well, we are at about an hour, so we want to let you get on with your night. We have recorded this, and we'll link it on our website if you want to come back to anything, or if you know, you find out from a friend they forgot to come tonight, you can let them know. We'll be posting it on our website. We really appreciate all of you joining us. Just please keep in mind that we're here to support you. So as questions and different stresses come up, please come see your counselor and we can walk you through whatever it is. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the call. Thanks, everybody.